The world's most famous sore loser will deliver a primetime presidential sour grapes address.
The president is free to say whatever the president wants to say. There's a lot of speculation that he's going to take it back to 2020.
What can potentially be the biggest story in our modern history started unraveling last night. Trump addressed the nation and then subsequently declassified a trove of documents. I have gone through the biggest highlights of the declassified material, and what I found is shocking. But worse yet is the Canadian media's reaction to it all, pointing to the only logical conclusion: Canada has been compromised. My name is Eli Daniel, and this is The Right Call. Like, share, subscribe, hype this video up. Any interaction on this channel helps push the truth out, and maybe someday help break that CBC-induced coma that so many Canadians are under. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, because if you like the truth, you found the right place. This is absolutely insane, and I'm still shocked by what is being revealed right now. Trump and his administration asserts that in 2020, China stole voter data on 220 million Americans.
Over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China has signed a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
What this means is that China was capable of registering and submitting mail-in and absentee ballots on behalf of registered voters. Funnily enough, mail-in ballots have been at the center of election integrity arguments, and the Democrats have fought tooth and nail to keep mail-in ballots as part of the election process.
Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls. And yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail.
It's insane to my Canadian mind that the United States is the only developed nation in the world that does not require voter ID in order to cast a ballot. Even freaking India, with its population of 1.3 billion people, manages to do it. Something tells me that certain power brokers within the Democratic Party, cough cough, Clinton, Obama, know more about this than they'd like to admit. Furthermore, the CIA covered it up, which means intelligence knew that this was happening and allowed the election to proceed, even though it had been compromised. China would have also been capable of targeting messaging via social media ads and algorithmic manipulation based on this data.
Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
So I've done some digging and I've highlighted the biggest revelation from the declassified documents that were made public last night. Declassified emails revealed that the National Security Agency analysts, the NSA, altered briefs on China's election influence, purposely underplaying or flat out hiding China's attempt to meddle in the US elections. Friday, November 20th, 2020, and I quote, "We have deliberately massaged sabotaged our one pending PDB, which is the Presidential Daily Briefing, to avoid any direct links to the election. This was from the strategic intelligence analyst for China and North Korea strategic assessments. A country's very own intelligence agency is so corrupt that it fails to do the very thing it was designed to do: find and assess national security risks, to the point of hiding said national security information from the president himself. But this is not just with the NSA. Even the FBI was compromised. 2020 chat logs reveal FBI agents discussing recalling an intelligence report on China from the Presidential Daily Briefing. One agent even goes as far as saying, and I quote, "I'm basically running a shadow government across the FBI at this point. I cannot state this loudly enough. The intelligence agencies and federal law enforcement agencies of the United States seditiously aided and abetted a foreign government power by modifying and at times withholding information from the commander-in-chief. Where are the arrests?" But it gets worse. It was revealed that China created fake driver's licenses in the US in 2020 to generate thousands of mail-in ballots in support of Joe Biden to help him steal the election from President Trump. Keep in mind that China had access to over 220 million American voter files, and the intel agencies covered it up. But wait, I ain't done. China used Chinese Communist Party assets in the US media and social media to incite the 2020 BLM Black Lives Matters uprising. In this report, the censored operation themes covered a broad range of topics to exploit what China perceived to be US fissures and vulnerabilities, perceived or real, including racial tensions, alleging that white people hate black people, inciting demonstration and marches as evidence of racial divides, increasing the level of conflicts between police and anti-racism activists, and feeding any sense that US law enforcement resents USG and people of color, pushing USG tensions with the US military, political party disagreements, Congress/Trump administration conflicts, women's rights, U.S. South China Sea policies, alleged U.S. war aspirations, and international propaganda. China had developed capabilities to project themes on these topics into social media, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and others, as well as mainstream media through a variety of overt and hidden influencers and media contributors. One of the options including gathering information on senior U.S. government officials to influence public opinion of those officials. And it just keeps going. Here we can see that China was blackmailing Biden White House officials so that they would take a restrained approach on China. Think about this for a second. Members of the Biden White House were compromised, were being blackmailed, effectively were being puppeteered by China.
Significant evidence of fraud has been detected. It has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned, they couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat.
In all their efforts, China managed to gain access and compromise the voter rolls of Alaska, Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, DC, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Maryland, Michigan, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Rhode Island. This is not the exhaustive list, because Trump also revealed that plenty of blue states, Democratic states, refused to help and comply and aid in the federal government's investigation into voter fraud, meaning that there could be many more states we just don't know because it's being actively covered up by the officials of that state. So with such a bombshell that rivals, actually that beats Watergate by far, you think that this would be blasted all over US mainstream media, right? Well, CNN, ABC, and NBC refused to air the address. So let me get this straight. CNN, ABC, and NBC are more than happy to report on the Hunter Biden laptop being Russia disinformation, that Joe Biden was supposedly at the top of his game during the last election, that Kamala Harris was nominated by a democratic process, a bit like our prime minister in Canada, and that BLM riots were just peaceful protests. But they refused to carry the President of the United States' national primetime address into whether there was meddling and worse, interference by a foreign government in their elections. The media is beyond corrupt. And it's even worse in Canada. So what did CBC do with this presidential address? Did they investigate the declassified documents like I did? Look into if this applies at all in Canada, if there's any connections? Maybe even air the leaked CSIS, our intelligence agency's report showing that China did indeed infiltrate and influence our government officials? No. What do you think they actually did?
3 months before U.S. midterm elections, President Donald Trump has laid out an avalanche of sensational claims in a primetime address.
You hear this? The words they use, it's 100% deliberate. It's to undermine and discredit the entire thing. This avalanche of sensational claims. That is exactly the way they manipulate you.
This time alleging that he has irrefutable evidence to back them up. Arguably, the most shocking of the claims is that China tried to interfere with the 2020 U.S. election, and the American intelligence community covered it up. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says this allegation is unfounded.
Well, that's it. Let's just pack up our bags and leave. CBC asked the Chinese government if they did it, and they said they didn't. They didn't, so it must be false. Of course, China would not lie. Like, what do you think? Do they take us for idiots? Do you really think that a foreign government is just going to be like, okay, sorry, you got us. It was us, sorry, mea culpa. Are you kidding? That's all part of it. They're going to deny. Of course, they're going to deny. Covert operations are denied. They're never admitted by state-sponsored organizations, governments, you name it. Oh my God, just the absolute sheer audacity that CBC has to air this stuff. It's mind-blowing to me at this point. I'm getting mad.
美方的有关说法纯属无中生有，恶意抹黑，早已被证明是。
I'm not going to play the entire thing, but they've given more airtime to this Chinese individual of the government claiming that they did not do it and Trump is wrong than they did airing the actual grievances supported by facts, documents, and evidence that the president showed the world last night. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Now, Trump has long peddled that he was cheated out of re-election, and that
Long peddled. Again, listen to the words.
claim has been repeatedly shut down by audits and investigations.
Has been repeatedly shut down by audits and investigation that did not have classified information that has now been declassified. If there's an investigation and they don't have the set of documents that prove it, how can the investigation show anything? If it was classified, then there was no audits, at least not of those documents. Now that those documents have been declassified, and I've shown you some of them, you can see that there was.
To try and counter that, his speech was accompanied by a volley of unclassified documents on the White House website.
And by the way, not unclassified documents, declassified documents. Again, language is important. They're not just like, oh, nilly-willy little documents. No, they were classified, some with the highest level of secrecy. There's even higher than top secret, by the way. For example, SAP special access programs. Okay, but we're not going to dive into this. They're just making it seem like, oh, they're just little documents. Oh my God.
Katie Nicholson has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump has long made his disproven grievances around the integrity of the 2020 election
Disproven grievances. Continue, girl. Keep going, Katie.
well known. And last night, he took them to prime time. This time, he insisted he had evidence and declassified files, which were posted to the official White House website.
So how about you guys go and read it? Do your goddamn duty as journalists and go dig.
Trump made numerous allegations of election interference, including from China and the so-called deep state. He alleged Americans have been lied to about the security of election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, which he says are vulnerable to hacking from Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and others. He's also alleging hundreds of thousands of people voted illegally in the 2020 election. Trump is particularly focused on the 2020 election, which he lost to Joe Biden. Important to note, numerous courts, audits, forensic analysis found no evidence of manipulated election results.
Again, based on documents they did not have access to. Again, if intelligence agencies classify classify this stuff as top levels, top secret, or again, special access programs, you're not going to have access. Even the courts are not going to have access.
And a national intelligence report said it had no indication that any foreign actor attempted to alter any aspect of
Right, the same intelligence agencies that purposely covered it up as proven in documents.
the voting process of those elections. That includes registration, casting of ballots, tabulation, or even results reporting. Now, Trump also renewed his plea to senators to push through a contentious voting reform act.
It's not contentious. It just forces people to have to identify themselves for voting like we do in Canada already.
The Save America Act, with voter ID rules that critics say would prevent millions of eligible voters from casting a ballot.
Why is that not a problem in Canada? There's millions of voters here that require voter ID. Why do we have voter ID? Why is it so hard in the US to implement? Right, because it would prevent cheating.
All of this before the November midterm elections, where Trump's Republican Party is in danger of losing its grip on the House and potentially the Senate.
Man, I wonder why they're running so fast to discredit Trump this badly when this could actually be the biggest story to blow up ever. Oops, yeah. Right, about that. This declassified CIA note released in the package of declassified documents by Trump shows that China headhunted American journalists and paid them extra for negative coverage on Trump. I quote, "The Chinese government wanted the US president to lose the next election." Well, no correlation to Canada, right? It couldn't possibly be fathomable that China would extend the exact same treatment to Canadian journalists, right? Because Canada's media is totally known for their impartial and nonpartisan approach to reporting. Yeah, you now know without a shadow of a doubt why our media behaves the way it does, and why Carney seems to want to push America aside in favor of China. From the EVs to the secret police stations operating on Canadian soil, to Michael Ma doing China's bidding to undermine any questions in the forced labor camps of the Uyghurs.
Have you witnessed forced, just a short answer, have you witnessed forced labor in Shenzhen? Yes or no? So did you get that
I
from
work closely
hearsay?
with Human Rights Watch, where researchers
Okay.
did witness it.
So thank you.
It's been China all along, behind the curtains, infiltrating, corrupting, festering, infecting every strata of Canadian governments and institutions. And it's being deliberately covered up by the Canadian media, as they're doing in the United States. What I'm going to say is no hyperbole, and I'm not going to mince words. This is treason of the highest order. So that was intense, and let's not lose sight of what's happening. But now, on a lighter note, face masks are back on the menu. But there's a big problem with it.
Your accessory is making a comeback. People are digging up and dusting off their old face masks to stop the smoke from seeping in.
I have a compromised immune system, so I take the best precautions to wear a mask.
The mask serves as a barrier between the body and the hazardous haze.
The media's obsession with the mask is next level. And who do they call on? Well, the so-called experts. I didn't play in the video because I'm running out of time, but oh my God. And to think that the majority of Canadians come home, turn on the news, get pumped full of fear, get told what to like, who to hate, how to live, what to eat, where to sit, where to go, where they should even travel to, who they should support, what not to support, if they should go outside, if they shouldn't, what to inject, where to shop, what to buy. You name it, Canadians are outright controlled by the machine. But the worst part, they're relying on BS right here that doesn't even work. Because forest fires produce something called volatile organic compounds, VOCs. They are primarily responsible for the short and long-term health effects of forest fire smoke. Well, guess what? N95 masks don't protect against VOCs. But leave it to the so-called experts to omit this crucial piece of data while fanning the literal flames of climate and health hysteria. The Canadian NPC horde will continue to outsource their free will to the state-sanctioned narrative. Facts be damned. And speaking of facts, Kirk Lubimov brought this up to our attention, and he's 100% right. Every year, wildfires in Canada release more carbon dioxide than any carbon capture project can sequester. That's beside destroy communities and businesses. Instead of investing in wildfire fighting capabilities to protect the environment and Canadians, the Liberals will spend $20+ billion on a project that will do neither. You must understand, it's not about the environment, it's about engineering a new mechanism for wealth transfer and controlling capital flow. Environment is just the excuse for the headlines. So tomorrow is my birthday, and I will be turning 35. To celebrate, I'll be hopping on a plane and taking a 2-week vacation in the south of Spain. And don't forget to follow me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, in order to see some behind the scenes of my day-to-day life, and also to follow all the gallivanting in southern Spain. I'll see you guys on there. So needless to say, there won't be any new reports coming out. However, next Tuesday, I'm trying something new. A video expose, a video essay, if you wish, a complete different style of content. It's something I've been working on now for a couple weeks, and I'm diving into the most pressing emergency that our country is currently facing. An issue I've spoken about many times in the past, an issue that's earned me 2 reposts from Elon Musk himself, an issue that's landed me live on the air of Fox News to discuss it. So tune in next Tuesday and let me know, do you enjoy that style of video expose? And if so, I might just have to do more of them going forward. I'll also release over the next 2 weeks a couple segments from past episodes, which I find need renewed attention. But I hope everyone gets to take some time off and enjoy the summer far away from all the political hysteria. Yes, politics is important, for it affects the quality of life, the success or failures of our nation, and touches every sphere of our daily lives. But to be able to be rational, to properly tackle the challenges that Canada faces, we also need a clear head. So take some time for yourself and go enjoy the pleasures that life offers. In spite of everything I say about this country, there is so much beauty out there, and there are so many great people around us in our communities. And you can also be that for them, a beacon of light in your community and in your family. If you've enjoyed this report and would like to find a way to get involved with the channel, aside from liking, subbing, sharing, subscribing, commenting, if you would like to take it a step further and or just give me a little birthday gift, I have a link in my bio for PayPal. Every donation is greatly appreciated. It allows me to, for example, sift through loads of declassified documents in order to highlight those for your viewing pleasure and to keep you informed on things that sadly the CBC just won't do. But for the time being, my name is Elliot Daniel, and it's time for me to fly off and go take some well-deserved rest. I'll see you next time.